Morning to all of you. I am Nupur Krishna, Program Manager at the India Sanitation Coalition at FICCI. And on behalf of all my teammates at ISC, I welcome you to this day-long knowledge workshop titled Why Correct Infrastructure Holds a Key to Sustainability in Swachh Bharat Mission Gramin. We open the workshop by welcoming our dignitaries, Shri Jiten Srivastav, Joint Secretary and Mission Director, Swachh Bharat Mission Gramin, Ms. Nainalal Kidwai, Chair, India Sanitation Coalition and FICCI Water Mission, and Ms. Natasha Patel, CEO, India Sanitation Coalition. Sir and madams, we are so honored that you have lent us your valuable time today to enrich our workshop. I request you to please take your seats on the dais. Sir and madams, I request you to please take your seat on the dais. I read somewhere that global leaders seeking a way to rebuild battered economies could hold the key to prosperity in their bathrooms. This workshop was conceived by the leadership at ISC in close coordination with DDWS, led by none other than the National Mission Director himself, Sri Jiten Srivastav ji. Today, this workshop will attempt to reiterate the importance of current infrastructure for sustainability of the mission. We will revisit some first principles, add new learnings, innovative models and technologies through our contribution from sector experts and practitioners who have very kindly lent us their time today. And ladies and gentlemen, we are honored to have amongst us a visionary who is leading the Swachh Bharat mission from the front, Shri Jiten Srivastava, Joint Secretary and Mission Director, Swachh Bharat Mission Gramin. Shri Srivastava, a 2000 batch IAS officer of the Bihar cadre, held several key positions in the government of Bihar, including that of the Secretary, PHED, before being designated as Joint Secretary, Department of Drinking Water and Sanitation, Government of India. On behalf of ISC at FICCI and all our guests present here, I once again heartily welcome Jitendra sir to the workshop and request him to deliver the keynote address. Please join me in welcoming Jitendra ji.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Respectable Ninalal Kidwai ji, respected Natasha ji, senior officers from the Department of Drinking Water and Sanitation, and respected corporates who have come here today for this brainstorming session on how we can work together. It gives me great privilege to stand before you, amongst you, to explain how we in the Government of India, along with your support, are trying to transform the rural landscape in the field of sanitation. As we all know, sanitation is a very, very complex process. On the one hand, it appears very simple, but when you actually get down to doing it, you realize the complexities involved, you realize the scale of resources involved, and you realize the sheer amount of effort that it takes to make an area as big as rural India clean. The sanitation story, as we all know, started in a formal manner with the launch of the SBM Phase 1 in 2014. At that time, the only focus of sanitation was on toilets. At that time, in 2014, India had a coverage of roughly 39% toilet coverage. But thanks to the visionary leadership and the detailed administrative follow-through of Government of India, as well as the leadership shown by the various state administrations and district administrations, the country declared itself ODF in 2019 on the 150th anniversary of the birth of the father of the nation as a fitting tribute to his personality. Thereafter, the Honorable Prime Minister set forth a new agenda. He made it clear that just reaching the ODF stage is not the end of the journey. It is just a padav, as what he said. It's just a padav, and now we need to move from an ODF to an ODF plus India. So, after a lot of brainstorming, the vision of the ODF plus India was conceptualized as a village which sustains its ODF status, as a village which has adequate or which ensures saturation of solid and liquid waste management arrangements. And the third part was extremely crucial. It needs to be visually clean. And visually clean was defined as minimal litter, minimum stagnant water, no dumps, no waste, no littering. So you have, for the first time in 2020, a very clear definition of what a clean India needs to be. Having looked at the clarity of the vision, we realized it was going to be a very tough task. And so, to keep ourselves motivated, because to move from 0 to 100 is a long, painstaking process involving a lot of resources, involving a lot of people. So, we realized that there needs to be some kind of a gradation step to keep the people motivated while we turn ODF plus. So, for the first time, we introduced the concepts of an aspiring village, we introduced the concept of a rising village, and we came up with the concept of a model village. So, all of us here know that an aspiring village is basically one which sustains its ODF status and has either solid or liquid waste management arrangements. A rising village is which sustains its ODF status and has both solid and liquid waste management arrangements. And a model village is sustains its ODF status, has solid and liquid waste management arrangements, plus is visually clean and displays adequate IC. So we came up with a very good conceptual gradient walkthrough as to how you need to move from a non-ODF village to an aspiring village to a rising village to a model village. And it was during this journey that we realized that we cannot do this without the involvement of everybody concerned. This means involvement of state administration, involvement of district administration, involvement of the three-tier Panchayati Raj system, involvement of the local community, involvement of the women stakeholders who have the biggest stake in this entire process. And we realized that the corporates here need to play a linchpin role. And that was the conceptualization of the LHI initiative, wherein it was envisioned that the corporates, with their techno managerial expertise, we consciously took a decision that we will not involve the corporates in asset creation, but we will use them for community building, for providing technical expertise, for demonstrating low cost, replicable solutions under various components, and provide technical expertise and managerial expertise to ensure that the villages move from a non ODF stage to an LHI stage, to a lighthouse stage. And I'm very happy that this partnership, which initially started off, today is moving very rapidly forward. And all across the country, there is a buzz. Corporates are excited, the district administrations are excited, the national team is excited, the state team is excited, and there's a lot of camaraderie in the system. And the entire system wants to show these lighthouse initiatives, wants to show these 75 panchayats to be lighthouse initiatives and perfect in every sense. Now, when we are talking about this lighthouse initiative, we realize that there are, as on date, there are a lot of funding issues. But when we took a close look, when we talked to all the districts, when we talked to the states, we realized that it is a crisis of just a very few panchayats not getting the funds. The funds are there. For example, just yesterday I was talking to Kerala. So, in a particular district, fund has gone to 100 panchayats. But coincidentally, the two panchayats which need to be taken up under LHI in that district, the fund has not gone to those two. So there is fund for 100 villages, 100 panchayats. But somehow, either lack of communication, yeah, lack of clarity, yeah, just simple clerical error, the funds have not gone to these two panchayats. So when I talk to the MD, he said, "Sir, I think there's some misalignment. I'll just ensure that these two villages are covered up." So if it's a very practical input to the corporates, if you are finding that there is a crisis of funds in the panchayat level, please talk to your district magistrates, please talk to your mission MDs, and please see whether it is actually a fund crisis or it is just a temporary misalignment of resources. So that is the first thing which I would like to reach out and tell you. The second part is we realize that you are here to give technical managerial solutions. We would like you to come up with low cost replicable solutions. We, as a rule matter of principle, we discourage engineering solutions because we feel that sometimes engineering solutions, while they solve the issue at hand, but more often than not, they are not scalable. They are not scalable. In fact, we had this issue in a particular state where one of the corporates came up with a very ingenious solution, but unfortunately, it could not be followed through because of its lack of scalability or replicability. So, at the higher level, when you are pushing your programs, I will request you to please look at low cost replicable solutions because, as we all know, resources are very tough to come by. Government of India has pledged 1.4 lakh crores. There's no shortage of funds at the macro level, but the scheme design is such that there are per capita limits on various components. So, for example, you will have a per capita limit on solid waste management. You will have a per capita limit on grey water management. You will have a per capita limit on fecal sludge management. So, you need to look into that aspect also. For example, in solid waste management, you can't afford to be very innovative because the per capita limit is set at a fairly restricted rate of 60 rupees per capita. But in the field of fecal sludge management, the sky is the limit. You have a per capita limit of 230 per capita. In fact, we are flushed with 9,500 crores in fecal sludge management, but we are yet to show any demonstrable model in fecal sludge management. So I will request all corporates, wherever they are working, please work with your district administrations and your state teams. Focus on fecal sludge management as an intervention that is required going forward because as we realize, this toilet story will continue. The toilet story will always form the base rock of sanitation work. So, and with increasing affluence, with increasing prosperity, people are going to move away from the single pit, from the twin pit. They're all going to move towards septic tanks. So, in the rural areas, we are going to see a resurgence of septic tanks in the days to come. And the only way out for septic tanks is to connect them to mechanized desludging and connecting the desludging operator to an existing treatment plant. So, fecal sludge management is an area which is going to be very, very relevant in the days to come. And we would request the corporates to please focus on fecal sludge management as an area of intervention as well as to devise replicable models. One point I would like you to pay attention to when you are coming up with your ideas, please look at the O&M possibility. You are not going to be there forever. You may handhold them for 3 months, you may handhold them for 6 months, you might provide a temporary infusion of funds, although it's not permitted as on date, but we understand sometimes you do it. But your intervention has to be a long lasting one. What was envisioned was you will build up the capacity of the community. You will help in identifying who is best suited to run the SLWM assets that we are creating. you will help in. I was very surprised. I had recently gone to Odisha. So there, a transgender group is running a sewage treatment plant, and it was a 75 KLD plant. And the transgender group has been running it for 3 years, and they have been turning a constant profit for the last 3 years. So it was an eye opener. In fact, it was so good that on the day that I was visiting the state, I was talking to the principal secretary. He said, "ठीक है, जितेंद्र, आप बहुत अच्छे time पर आए हो. Today we have taken the cabinet decision to shift 5 more STPs to this transgender group." So I will request you to identify such groups of people. I'm not saying locate transgender, but identify people whom you think are competent and ensure and liaison with the district administration and see that they become in charge of the solid and liquid waste management assets. Going forward, sustainability of the assets which we are creating is going to be the biggest challenge. आप बना देंगे, आप segregation shed बना देंगे, आप compost pit बना देंगे. Ultimately, if it doesn't run properly, the compost pit will choke up, the segregation shed will get filled up, it will become dirty, it will get abandoned, the cycles will stop operating, the rickshaws will stop operating, the kuda will go back to being dumped on the street corner. So you need to institute, you need to identify people. You have issues at the local level. Not everybody can be engaged in sanitation. Historically, there are practical limitations on the kind of people who can be involved in sanitation activities. That is the stark reality. We have to keep that reality in mind and at the same time try to push the barriers of that reality. And try and involve good people in management of the solid and liquid waste management assets. We have to encourage the community. We have to break down their barriers to user charges. That is a big barrier. I was very, very happy just yesterday. I got a message from the CEO Jivika, Rahul in Bihar. He just sent me a small clip saying that, sir, we've crossed 3 crores in collection in user charges out of 4,000 panchayats. What have they done? They have transferred all the assets to the SHGs, and the SHGs are running. Of course, in Bihar, the Jivika model is a very strong model. It is very, very successful. So he had a ready-made solution. For him, it was a no-brainer. You did not have to think twice before handing over the assets to them. Extremely competent, extremely resourceful. You just give it to them, they run it. And they have a tremendous acceptability. But that may not be the case in other states. So identifying the people who need to be put in charge of the SLWM assets is going to be a very, very crucial task going forward. Even in your Lighthouse initiative, you will have to look into the sustainability part. So that is one issue. Another issue which you will need to really think about is continuation and sustenance of the ODF story. While we acknowledge that we are by and large ODF, once in a while we run into a few villages where we come across cases of people still defecating in the open. And that puts into question, even though it is the biggest behavioral change program in the world, it has transformed the lives of over 500 million people. But every person defecating in the open calls into question that success story. And that we feel the biggest reason for not using the toilets. See, toilets have actually been constructed. It is just a question of those toilets needing repairs and those toilets falling into disuse. So, current SBM program does not permit repairing of toilets. But we have tied up with the state rural livelihood missions, and we have encouraged the state rural livelihood missions to include repair of toilets as a priority sector lending activity for the group members of SHGs. So in those states where the SHG movement is very strong, for example in Bihar, this has come as a godsend, because at 4% interest, a female head of the household who wants her toilet repaired and who requires 5,000 rupees just takes that 5,000 rupees from her internal group members. and she pays it to them at 4%, almost free. And all of us know that the recovery rate of these intergroup lendings or intra-group lendings is as high as 98%. That is the success rate of recovery. So at 4%, this lady gets her financing. She is the one who has to use the toilet. She is the one who faces the inconvenience of going out into the open. She is the one who faces the inconvenience of defecating in the open in the night or in the early morning. And quietly, they have revolutionized the toilet sector. Over 70 lakh toilets have been repaired in Bihar. Nothing stops us from replicating this. Wherever I go, I make it a point to mention this, and I hope that the state administration, unfortunately, like I said, it is a state subject. So most of our effort is spent in trying to convince the state to adopt the good practices. So I will request you, wherever you go, please push this concept of repair of toilets, extremely vital issue to sustaining the ODF status. Another area where I would like the corporates to really focus on is innovation. A few days back, I was just seeing how plastic waste can be used to make soap. How plastic, we are seeing examples. See, the traditional SBM model is you either sell it to a kabadi wala, or you use it in road construction, or you use it in cement kilns as factory, as supplementary fuel. But what we would like to encourage are innovative uses of plastic waste. You can make road paver tiles. You can make designer cloth. You can now make soap. So this is where we would like the corporates to come in and educate us and tell us, you have some of the brightest minds in the sector. You have exposure to, you have access to resources which most people don't have. So we would like you to look into that sphere and suggest कि सर आप ये क्यों नहीं सोचते हैं, सर आप ये क्यों नहीं सोचते हैं, प्लास्टिक को ऐसे भी हम लोग यूज कर सकते हैं. That is the kind of innovative linkage that we would like to establish with through you. So innovation is the key to pushing SBM, and this is where we envision the corporates to actually supply us with innovative solutions. If you can do the groundwork, even if you can't do the groundwork, even if you can suggest the idea, we are willing to do the groundwork. But if you can do the groundwork, that is ideal. So how we can use, how innovatively can you resolve grey water? How can you bring down water consumption? All of us must have seen that ad. एक जैगवार के उसमें वो एक छोटा सा फिक्सचर लगा देने से water usage drops down by as much as 70%. Now, these are the kind of innovative interventions which we should be looking at. We already have a standard model. We know for solid waste management, go for household composting. If it's not possible, go for segregated composting at the village level. For grey water, we know, go for household level grey water management. If it is complex or the nature of the panchayat is peri-urban, go for a grey water management structure. So the basic model is very clear. The message has now gone across, and that is the reason why in the last 1 year, you must realize we started off last year, 1st April 2022, our ODF plus in any one category was just 7% of the villages. We have 5.92 lakh villages. 1st April 2022, we were at 7%. Today, we are at 73% in just 16 months. Now, that shows the clarity of thought which has gone across. See, the biggest challenge is sitting in Delhi, conceptualizing something, making sure the person at the village level knows what is to be done. That is the game of Chinese whispers that we are engaged in. If we can get that story right, if we can communicate what we have thought in Delhi to the person who has to do the work in a small village in Assam, then we have got the story right. And now I feel we are getting the story right. We are well on the way to getting the story right. And this is right now a very exciting time to be working in the field of sanitation. We are poised on the brink of a great leap. Already we are realigning. We have seen that we have touched 73%. Within 2 or 3 days, we'll be touching 75%. I mean, I will not be surprised if we touch maybe even 100% by December. So already we are making the changes. We have now, so far we are pedaling down very hard on ODF plus any category. Now we have taken off the brakes and we've taken off that leg of that pedal. And now we have put it to the model village pedal. We still have only 90,000 model villages. Out of 5.91 lakhs, only 90,000 are model. So we have taken our foot off the aspiring category and now we are pushing it on the model category. बहुत बढ़िया, you have got your clarity right. Now push for model. And I'm very, very confident that within the next 3 months, the full clarity with regard to model will reach down to the grassroots level. And after that, work on the model will start. So right now, SBMG is a very happening place. All state administrations are geared up. All of you must have seen the SBM phase when it started in 2014. Not many people, we were also in the field. मालूम था कि हाँ टॉयलेट्स को चेस करना है, but it had never risen to a crescendo. But somewhere around 17, somewhere around 18, everybody realized yes, toilets are coming up, and we need to push it. And in the last 1.5 years, the entire country pushed the agenda of toilets very, very hard. We are on a similar foot with regard to ODF now. Everybody has realized ODF works, ODF matters, ODF has tremendous spin-offs. Everybody is getting involved. This is the right time to go for the big push. So I will request all corporates, please keep yourself gung-ho on the field of sanitation. We are actively looking for partnerships across various sectors. And we hope that the partnership from corporates is going to come through innovations, through innovative ideas which we can push. We already have a stable bank of ideas. I want the corporates to challenge that stable bank. We want you to come and tell us कि सर ये बहुत अच्छा है, but सर इसको ऐसे क्यों नहीं करते? These are the kind of things which we want from you. So that's all I wanted to say. Thank you, Natasha ji. Thank you, ma'am, for giving me this opportunity to interact with the corporates. And we hope that the initiatives that we have taken together are going to sustain going forward. And we hope to have a very, very exciting 1.5 years ahead. Thank you so much, ma'am. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, sir, for broadening our understanding on SPMG and the Lighthouse Initiative and sharing some burning issues that we need to address on our journey to ODF sustainability. Now, we understand that the inaugural session might not be the appropriate place for an interactive discussion with the audience. However, keeping in mind Jitendra sir's other commitments and therefore his availability during the workshop, we will request sir to respond to a few select questions from the workshop participants and our audience. So if anybody of us would like to put up a question to sir, please go ahead.
So while we wait for you all to think through the burning issues which Jitendra Srivastavaji has shared with us, I have a question for you. And clearly the success in Bihar of the SHG activity being brought in to the sanitation space is a great example actually of implementation through two very successful government programs. The SHG movement on one side, which is again often a private-public partnership. A lot of the SHGs have benefited from the microfinance movement, which is not just government. And on the other, the sanitation success story. Could you expand on that a little more in terms of how that has been implemented on the ground and how at the center, given that these are such big programs, both of them, we can actually benefit from sticking them together in every state. We also have with us Manoj, who's been one of his organization, water.org, has been one of my teachers on how the SAG microfinance movement for sanitation was expanded in the country. So, Manoj, maybe after Surastaji, you can also come in on some of this. Yeah.
Thank you, ma'am. First of all, I'd like to say that this SLG success story is not restricted to Bihar alone. Many states have done it. Immediately, West Bengal springs to mind. Bihar is one example. Southern states are doing this. Kerala has a unique model of plastic waste management. I think if you look at it in terms of an absolutely unique model and a very advanced model, I would say one should study the Kerala model of plastic waste management. They have corporatized the setup. It's a unique fusion of a corporate setup and the rural livelihood mission. The entire rural livelihood mission is involved in segregating. It's called the Harit Sena there. So the foot soldiers come from the SAG movement. The women SAG members are engaged in handling the segregation sheds. They manage the cycle rickshaws which bring the waste from the houses to the segregation shed. They are part of the group of people who actually segregate what has not been segregated at the household level. They shift the things into the compost pits. They sell the produce into the government system and they get the money from them. They also charge user charges from the households. So by and large, for example, in you have some variations, but say Mizoram, you have almost 200 rupees being levied from the households as user charge. But in other states, people are slightly less ambitious and they are taking 30 to 50 rupees. So, for example, in Bihar, it is 30. In West Bengal, it is 30. It becomes easy to sell. You can just explain 1 rupaya per day aapko dena hai. So it doesn't seem like a huge load on anybody, and people are more than willing to pay 1 rupee per day for the convenience of having the waste lifted off from your uh, household. So SFGs are basically what the government has done is once the assets were created through an MOU, the assets were and certain service parameters, the assets and the ability to hire. Basically, government said ki any member, we will pay them 3,000 rupees. But you have to earn the money. You have to levy it through user charges. So if you don't earn the money, you will not be able to pay yourself user charges. So it was a very simple model. You hand over the assets to the SHGs. They are in full control. They levy the user charges. They pay themselves. And whatever is left over, they give it to the government account. And they maintain the accounts also. This is very simply the model of the SHG. Very simple, very effective, and handled at the local level.
Manoj, yeah.
Good morning, sir. And first of all, thank you for coming and attending for this ISC program. It encourages all of us to do more. And so thank you for that. For Water.org, we have been working with Maharashtra Umed, the SRLM. And you'll be happy to know we first worked with them in 6 districts. And we did 84,000 loans through the SRLM did it. And we just got the order for 250,000 loans that they want to do in 20 districts, out of which they've asked for 60% minimum to be on retrofitting. So the movement has really started to happen. What you were talking about was very encouraging, that people are now, the SHG is now saying, हाँ ये तो हमारी प्रॉब्लम है, हम तो इसको सॉल्व खुद कर लेंगे, इसके लिए अगर छोटा हमारे को कॉर्पस फंड भी लेना पड़े या कि बैंक लिंकेज भी लेनी पड़े तो कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं आ रही है उनके लिए, माइंड खुल गया. And this is what all of us need to be doing in all the 90,000 model districts, villages that we need to do it. We need to create that environment. I then take it to MP, and in MP again, a similar order is coming through. Geo is coming in for 2 lakh 2 lakh loans to be done, minimum 60% retrofitting के ऊपर। तो ये एक आप जो कह रहे हैं, ये it's like a wind which is now coming in state by state. My request to you, sir, is that while we are doing it and with the help of UNICEF, we have also done it in UNICEF at Odisha. ये कई अच्छे एग्जाम्पल्स बन गए हैं अपन। बिहार भी एक माने इज द टॉप एग्जाम्पल फॉर दिस। व्हाट वी नीड इज टू नाउ लिंक इट एट द एनआरएलएम लेवल सर। एनआरएलएम में क्या कि अगर टॉपिक में अगर हम बिठा दें एंड वी हैव द आईसी मटेरियल, वी हैव द ट्रेनिंग मॉड्यूल्स, अगर वहां पे बिठा दें तो सारे एसआरएलएम्स में ये बात फैल जाएगी सर। तो सिंसियर रिक्वेस्ट ऑन दैट।
We have already started work, but we will take your suggestion as a reaffirmation of what we were doing. We have already started working. We are in close touch with NRLM. Anupamaji's team is working with them to draft a model MOU, which can be shared between the Jivikas and the SBMG partners as a model MOU. We have taken the example of Bihar. We have taken, I think, 1 or 2 other states are also doing this refinancing of toilets. So we have taken we have asked for the MOUs in these 3 places, and we are in touch with NRLM. They said कि आप जैसे ये तीनों दे देंगे, so then we will use that to make a model MOU and circulate it as a model practice from Government of India level.
Jiten ji, we are more than happy to come to you and show you जो material चाहिए, जो हमें
absolutely,
we are happy to come down.
Absolutely.
Thank you, sir.
Kindly get in touch. She is the person you need to catch. Shivani.
नमस्कार सर, मैं रमा शंकर हूँ और बिहार में एक नेटवर्क है बास को लेकर के, विश्वास वॉलंटियर इनिशिएटिव फॉर सस्टेनेबल एक्शन ऑन वाटर सैनिटेशन एंड हाइजीन, उसको स्टेट कन्वीनर के रूप में देखता हूँ। ये 48 लोगों का एक नेटवर्क है जिसमें बहुत सारे सिविल सोसाइटी ऑर्गेनाइजेशन जिनका वास मैंडेट है। इसके अलावा कुछ एकेडमिशियन हैं, कुछ वास एक्सपर्ट हैं इससे जुड़े हुए। साथ ही साथ एक फैंसा है, फ्रेश वाटर एक्शन नेटवर्क ऑफ साउथ एशिया, तो इंटरनेशनल नेटवर्क है, तो उसको भी स्टेट कन्वीनर के रूप में देखता हूँ। 2-3 चीजें कहनी है सर। पहला तो कहना है कि अगर ओडीए प्लस प्लस की बात करते हैं तो उसमें SLWM एक बड़ा कंपोनेंट है, लेकिन जो उसके 3 चीजें हैं, रिड्यूस, रीयूज और रिसाइकिल। आपने सर यूजर चार्जेज की बात की है, तो ग्रामीण क्या शहरी क्षेत्रों में भी ये इशू आ रहा है, क्योंकि हम लोग 3 नगर परिषद में काम कर रहे हैं। पटना से सटा हुआ है, फुलवारी शरीफ, दानापुर और खगौल में। तो पटना नगर निगम ने तो कर दिया यूजर चार्जेज को, चूंकि उन्होंने होल्डिंग टैक्स के साथ जोड़ दिया है, तो वो आसान हो गया है। लेकिन अगर नगर परिषद की बात करते हैं या ग्रामीण क्षेत्र की बात करते हैं, तो वहां पर यूजर चार्जेज को लेकर के बहुत सारे, चूंकि वो पूरा पंचायत के जिम्मे चला जाता है, और पंचायत चूंकि इलेक्टेड बॉडी है, पंचायत नहीं चाहती है कि हमारा जो वोटर्स है वो इसमें ये हो, तो ये एक बड़ा इशू है। दूसरा है कि जो सोर्स लेवल पर सेग्रीगेशन की बात है, ये बड़ा चैलेंज है, ग्रामीण ही नहीं अर्बन एरियाज को भी लेकर के। अर्बन में भी अगर आप देखेंगे तो सेग्रीगेशन, सोर्स लेवल सेग्रीगेशन एक बड़ा चैलेंज है, क्योंकि हम लोग काम कर रहे हैं वहां पे, तो हम लोग देख रहे हैं। तो उसमें कैसे एसएचजी ग्रुप को अगर इंगेज किया जाए, या जो भी लोकल सिविल सोसाइटी ऑर्गेनाइजेशंस है उसको किस तरह से अगर इंगेज कर करके। दूसरा चीज है कि सर रिसाइकलर का यूनिट यूएनडीपी ने तो बिहार से है,
समय के इंटरेस्ट में, और चूंकि सर के पास आगे का एंगेजमेंट है, तो थोड़ा अपने प्रश्न से चुप रहे।
तो बिहार में जैसे यूएनडीपी ने प्लास्टिक वेस्ट को लेकर के गर्दनी बाग में एक से ये सेटअप किया था, लेकिन किसी कारणवश वो आगे ये नहीं कर पाया। तो हमें लगता है कि उस तरह के रिसाइकलर यूनिट जब तक नहीं, चूंकि आप तो सर देखे होंगे नामचक बैरिया जो है बिहार का, इतना बड़ा डंपिंग यार्ड है कि पूरा पहाड़ बन गया है। तो उसको लेकर के कैसे मंत्रालय सोच सकती है। और दूसरा चीज सर कि अगर जल की बात करते हैं, हर घर नल जल जो है गवर्नमेंट का एक बहुत ही अच्छा स्कीम्स है, लेकिन उसमें जो क्या चैलेंजेस आ रहे हैं इधर के दिनों में, कि जो वाटर लेवल है वो काफी तेजी में डिप्लीट कर रहा है, क्योंकि पानी की काफी बर्बादी हो रही है। वार्ड प्रबंधन क्रियान्वयन समिति जो है गांव स्तर पे, वो बहुत फंक्शनल नहीं है, तो वो उसको कैसे फंक्शनल किया जाए, क्योंकि पूरा मैनेजमेंट की जवाबदेही उनके ऊपर है। तो हमें लगता है कि इन सब चीजों पर काम करने की जरूरत है। धन्यवाद सर।
Thank you. We'll take one or two more questions and see if Srivastava can answer them. Yeah, to give it, here's your chance, but please keep the question short. Anything that you would like to address to the Joint Secretary? Anyone? Okay, in which case, yeah, there is. Yeah, go ahead.
नमस्कार सर, मेरा नाम मनीष जोशी है। मैं डीसीएम श्रीराम लिमिटेड दिल्ली में हूँ और हरदोई ज़िले में जहाँ हमारी शुगर यूनिट्स भी हैं, वहाँ पर हम एक छोटा-सा प्रोजेक्ट पिछले 1.5 साल से जिला मुख्यालय में चला रहे हैं, वो है सॉलिड वेस्ट मैनेजमेंट का। जो अभी अगर मैं 1.5 साल की बात करूँ तो बहुत अच्छे रिज़ल्ट आए हैं। हमने 2 वार्ड सेलेक्ट किए थे, जहाँ पर कि कूड़ा सड़क के किनारे ही पड़ा रहता था, उठाने की भी कोई प्रॉपर व्यवस्था नहीं थी। जी सर, जी सर। जी सर, मैं शहरी क्षेत्र की बात कर रहा हूँ। बट उसमें सर पार्ट में ग्रामीण और शहरी दोनों मिला हुआ है, क्योंकि इस तरह का जिला है कि अगर मैं कहूँ कि पूरा शहर तो वो नहीं है, बट पार्टली ग्रामीण भी है। हमको सर चैलेंज जो आया कि हमने छोटी डिसेंट्रलाइज्ड यूनिट बनाई, जैसे आपने कहा कि भई कंपोस्ट मेकिंग और कई चीज़ें हमने करी। और अब हमको चैलेंज आ रहा था, जो आपके एड्रेस से भी मुझे आइडिया मिला कि जब हम उस मॉडल को क्रिएट कर चुके हैं और अच्छा रिजल्ट आ रहा है, एग्ज़िट कैसे करें? एक सजेशन आपने दिया कि हम एसएचजी मॉडल पे देख सकते हैं। एक बात जो मैं आपसे शेयर करना चाहूँगा सर, एमआरएफ यूनिट्स बनी हुई हैं, जैसे बहुत अच्छी एमआरएफ यूनिट हरदोई जिले में, बट वो फंक्शनल नहीं है। तो जब हम जिला स्तर पे बात करते हैं तो हमसे कहा जाता है जी आप ही इसको ले लीजिए और आप ही फंक्शनल करें। एज़ अ कॉर्पोरेट हमारे लिए चैलेंज ये आता है कि अगर हम एक बार चले गए, तो फिर हम वहाँ से एग्ज़िट नहीं कर पाएँगे। तो क्या ऐसा किया जा सकता है कि अगर हम एज़ अ कॉर्पोरेट एंटर करें भी, तो निश्चित 1 साल, 2 साल, 3 साल के बाद हम एग्ज़िट कर सकें? तो एज़ अ कॉर्पोरेट हमारे लिए बड़ा चैलेंज आता है। और कई बार सर अधिकारी स्तर पर भी होता है कि बहुत अच्छा अधिकारी अगर हमको मिल जाता है, जैसे हमारे मॉडल के सक्सेस होने का एक बड़ा रीज़न था कि जो वहाँ के एग्जीक्यूटिव ऑफिसर थे वो बहुत अच्छे थे। अनफॉर्चुनेटली उनका 2 साल में ट्रांसफर हो गया, तो अब देखना है कि जो नए आएँगे कैसा चलेगा। बट अधिकारी स्तर पर भी बहुत डिपेंड करता है कि कितने पॉजिटिव हैं।
देखिए, अनफॉर्चुनेटली वी हैव स्टिल नॉट बीन एबल टू फिगर आउट अ वे टू गेट द ह्यूमन आउट ऑफ द सिस्टम। ठीक है ना? वी विल ऑलवेज डिपेंड ऑन अ गुड बेनेवोलेंट पर्सन एट द हेल्म ऑफ अफेयर्स। सदियों से यदि चली आ रही है, भविष्य में भी रहेगी, इससे तो कोई छुटकारा नहीं हो सकता। But I'll just take all your questions. The first question was on user charges. One was on what efforts are being taken for source segregation. Third was on what the government is thinking for recycler units, and how we are thinking of Har Ghar Nal Jal, and how we are planning to go forward in Har Ghar Nal Jal. देखिए, user charges is a very ticklish issue, and like I said, sanitation is a state subject. While we have the theory down right, theory mein everybody knows what needs to be done. Political expediency often rules the day. And the biggest challenge for administrators or people who are working in the sector is to convince the political leadership, either at the state level or at the grassroots level, the need to levy and ensure user charges are taken. It is very easy to say user charges should be levied. But हमने जो practically देखा as an administrator, if service delivery is first guaranteed, the task of levying user charges becomes very easy. इसीलिए हम लोग के मॉडल में भी है कि आप जहां भी SLWM assets बनाते हैं, for the first 6 months एक stabilizing time लगता है. You need to get people in, you need to start putting in the system, it will have birthing defects, you will gradually get rid of them. तो हम लोगों ने रखा है 6 महीने तक उसको चलाना है, और उसके लिए हम लोगों ने प्रोविजन किया है कि आप 15 फाइनेंस कमीशन फंड से आप इसको चलाइए, knowing fully well that for 6 months you will not be in a position to levy user charges. But it is presumed that within 6 months you will get your theory right and you will start delivering services at a satisfactory level at the grassroots level. जहां आपके यूजर चार्जेस नहीं लेवी हो रहे हैं, for all those people I have a very simple answer. अगर यूजर चार्ज लेवी नहीं हो रहे हैं, it is because the public at large does not perceive your service to be of value. I have seen it in PhD. I had the privilege of handling the Har Ghar Nal Jal program in Bihar under PhD. wherein half the state was being given water through PHED and half the state is being given water through the Panchayat Raj institutions. Without going into too much of the merits, by and large, I will talk about PHED work. We noticed that जहां पर हम लोग का काम अच्छा था, एंड वेरी सिंपल फॉर दैट वाज, अगर जहां हमारा कॉन्ट्रैक्टर अच्छा था, और वेरी सिंपली पुट जहां हमारा लोकल कॉन्ट्रैक्टर था. In the initial phases, we had a lot of big names coming in and taking up big projects. And then वही contracts, petty contract हुआ, फिर वो नीचे काम हुआ. But we course corrected immediately. We brought down the requirements, and thereafter, initial phase when I took charge, we had barely 100 contractors. But within the next 2 years, we moved from 100 contractors to 4,000 contractors. And that decentralization ensured that the contractor at the grassroots level was handling a very small area. वो 10 वार्ड देख रहा है, एक पंचायत देख रहा है, 2 पंचायत देख रहा है. So for him it becomes a small area, easy to manage, and he would take personal interest, run around. तो हम लोग ने देखा कि जहां कॉन्ट्रैक्टर्स छोटे थे, वहां पर यूजर चार्ज लेवी करना बहुत आसान था. बिकॉज वो पर्सनल इंटरेस्ट लेकर भागता था. ही वुड रिजॉल्व द इश्यूज. जैसे इश्यू रेज होता था कि भाई रिपेयर होना है, वो जाकर रिपेयर करता था. पानी नहीं आ रहा है, अच्छा ठीक है, 2 दिन बाद पानी पहुंच गया. सी द रूरल पॉपुलेशन इज वेरी वेरी लिबरल. अगर आप उसका इश्यू 4 दिन में भी सॉल्व कर दीजिए, ही विल नॉट बिग्रज यू दैट डिले. Our system is so inefficient कि even after 7 days we are not able to resolve the issue. And that is when he starts whimpering at the first sight. He will go up to 1 month. He will wait for you for up to 1 month. अगर 1 महीने में भी आपने ठीक कर दिया, वो कहेगा ना ना ठीक है सर, जय साहब ठीक है, आते हैं काम कर देते हैं. So that is the latitude which the rural population has given us, and still we don't meet up to those criteria. So to cut the point short, where यूजर चार्जेस आप नहीं लेवी कर पा रहे हैं, इसका मतलब आपकी सर्विस डिफेक्टिव. I have seen this in a multitude of schemes. The only option I tell them is get your service delivery right, you will get your user charges. There were World Bank projects where we have charged 300 rupees per month and we have got it in Bihar. Whereas in Har Ghar Nal Jal, we were charging only 30 rupees. So in World Bank projects, we have got 300 rupees. Metering था, bulk metering था, आपका individual meters थे, we had given them tanks. It depends on the service. Second issue is source segregation. देखिए, source segregation, it takes time. If we think that source segregation will happen wonderfully from day one, it will not happen. It will start off at 40% efficiency, gradually you will build it up to 50, 60. It takes time. It takes effort. Municipal corporations have been doing source segregation for 3-4 years. Now they are reaching levels of efficiency of 70%, 80%. So this is going to take time. The good thing is it has started. So within 3 years, you will reach the level of source segregation. Yes, it is a matter of concern, but we should not get too worried about it. Because आप आज की डेट में उस waste को, you are not making energy pellets. ठीक है ना? You are using it and easily compost बना रहे हैं. थोड़ा source मतलब उतना segregated नहीं भी होगा, you will still get compost. It is not a bad option. So if you had a very high-end use for it, then yes, I would worry that source segregation is very, very crucial. But you are just producing compost that you are, and then if you are smart enough, you are using vermicomposting. I have recently visited a place in Karnataka. That one place was selling worms of up to 6 lakhs, 1 unit. Just worms. I'm not talking about the compost part. Just by sale of worms. They were culturing the worms and they were distributing worms to the entire farmers. Every month they earn 6 lakhs just from sale of worms. So these are the kind of spin-offs that you're going to get at the grassroots level. Recycler units, very valid point. I must be very candid. We have not thought of it so far. Our entire effort in the, although it's happening in the urban sector, it's happening in the urban sector, but SBMG has not yet started thinking about recycler units. We are right now focusing on setting up the baby of the recycler unit, that is the PWM. आज की डेट में करीब 2400 blocks are covered out of our 8,000 blocks. So we still have a long way to go. But yes, that's a good point. And I think somewhere down the line, we will do this course correction and we will have a policy on recycle units. Meeta just kindly noted. It's a very vital point. We need to start thinking about it. I'm sorry, John, last point. Could you just repeat your last point if I have missed out any point which you were raising? देखिए, basically, like as administrators, we also tend to take the easy way out. We see कि भाई ये लोग अच्छे लोग हैं, काम कर देंगे. So rather than go through the arduous task of selecting an SHG, educating it, building up their capacity, making sure they have the linkage, it's easier कि भाई एक आदमी को बुलाया और he takes it up. You have a plethora of resources at your disposal, you take it up. But yes, we need to have an exit plan. Taking up, I'm sure corporates don't mind taking it up, but yes, you can't run it in perpetuity. So we need to have an exit plan. I think the exit plan is very simple. You have to hand it over to some local good body. And now I think, okay, with more exposure coming in, we are sending a lot of mission MDs across the countries to learn from states which are doing very well. I myself learned a lot in my state visits when I saw actual work happening on the ground. So I'm sure the mission MDs, once they do the first round of exposure training, their horizons will also get widened. And within the next 1 or 2 years, you will not have this issue of capacity or the issue of handing over. I think SHGs will become an automatic option very soon. We have just started talking about SHGs. Already in the last 3 months, we have seen a lot of traction. Many states, the CSs now say कि in the return, sorry ma'am, आप last time बोल कर आए थे SHGs, we are getting there. We are getting there. So the elephant has started walking.
If I may add, one of the areas we will continue to push on is to find SMEs and MSMEs who see it as a business model. But for that, of course, it has to be a for-profit model and the profit has to be demonstrated. I would just add that this user charge issue across sectors, we've found that the minute the community pays, it also makes you accountable for delivery. So the quality also goes up. So I think that the pain point of the community shouldn't be too cheap so that they demand the service and keep everyone on the toes. And I think the user charge becomes very important for that. The minute it's a free service, it becomes sloppy. Yeah.
How come in Mizoram you're charging 200 rupees, whereas in other places you're only charging 30 and 50? So they said very simply, their costs are high. The terrain is such that their costs are high. To get rid of it, to take it, transport it, there's no internal roads. So you have to hire mules to evacuate the waste out. So that is one part. But the other part is what ma'am said. The perception of quality. When you pay well, you will sit down on his head till you get that service.
सर, मेरा नाम अभिषेक भारती है और मैं भी बिहार से हूँ. मैंने बीसेक्स में आपके डायरेक्शन में काम भी किया है. सर, जो यूजर चार्जेज है उसको लेकर के जो बातें हैं, वास्तव में यही एक हर्डल है, खास करके जब हम जमीनी स्तर पे काम करने जाते हैं. सर, हम लोग जानते हैं कि जो आपने बताया कि जो अगर पब्लिक समझती है, कम्युनिटी समझ जाती है कि ये चीज़ें हैं हमारे लिए, तो वो पे करती है. सर, हम लोग जानते हैं बिहार में या हर जगह श्रमदान का या फिर जो हमारे गुमाम का जो प्रथा है कि लोग जो सामाजिक काम है या फिर जो कम्युनिटी का जो असेट्स है उसको मेंटेन करने के लिए पहले भी करते रहे, आज भी करते रहते हैं. लेकिन सर, जो हम लोग जब लेवी के बात आती है तो सीधे हम लोग सिर्फ करेंसी में आते हैं, उनको पैसे देने हैं. तो हम लोग उनको ऑप्शन नहीं देते हैं कि आप किस तरीके से इसको कर सकते हैं. लाइक कि आज भी गुमाम जो है या फिर श्रमदान जो होता है उसमें कई लोग होते हैं जो नौकरी पेशे वाले, लेकिन गांव के एसेट्स को मेंटेन करने में सपोर्ट करते हैं, जब अपना वो पैसा देते हैं. लेकिन जो गांव के लोग हैं वो श्रम देते हैं. कई घर के लोग ना श्रम देते हैं ना पैसा देते हैं, वो कुछ चावल या जो उनके पास अपने रिसोर्सेस है वो देते हैं. तो हम लोग इसमें ऑप्शन क्यों नहीं देते हैं कि आप अगर कोई पशुपालक है तो वो गोईठा ही दे दे. आज तो अमेजोन पर सर गोईठा बिक रहा है. तो जीविका को और जो इस को इन्वॉल्व करके इस तरह की चीज़ों को हम लोग क्यों नहीं, और इवन पैक्स जो है, जो डिपार्टमेंट है जहाँ गांव में पैक्स का जो प्रोविजन है, उसको हम लोग इसमें इन्वॉल्व करके जीविका को और 2-3 पार्टीज को इन्वॉल्व करके भाई वी कैन क्रिएट ए सिस्टम। कैसे हम लोग लेवी ले सकते हैं, कैसे हम यूजर चार्जेस को इंश्योर कर सकते हैं, तो इसको हम लोग ऑप्शन हमको देना पड़ेगा कम्युनिटी को सर।
Interesting idea. I think it's worth passing on this input to CEO Jivika, and I'll pass it on. And let's see what if you are working in a particular area, maybe we can put in a word to the local administration. ये एक दो villages में करके देखिए.
And we can do a pilot, sir.
If you can give me a small note, कि what are the possible options?
We can do, sir.
ठीक है ना, कि instead of 30 rupees, मतलब एक standard अगर आप दे दें तो it becomes easier to convince. Otherwise somebody will have to think of those standards.
और हम लोग सर राहुल सर को आप बोले, हम लोग उनसे जाके मिलके इस बात को हम लोग अपने आइडिया शेयर कर सकते हैं।
बिल्कुल बिल्कुल। This is what the corporate and government partnership is all about. कि see, as government, most governments are absolutely open to ideas. So, and this is a new field. A lot of ideas are there. तो आइए, बहुत अच्छा है। स्वागत है आपके विचारों का।
Sir, here. I'm Anuya Bhide from Primove. Our company is basically into delivery of trainings for SBMG throughout India through the CB initiative of DDWS. So there, in the plastic waste management sessions, we are very nicely putting it front of people that disposing of plastic into the cement clink or shredder units or binding them together is not the only option. They should go for innovative techniques, as you mentioned. But can we have a central library or directory at central or state level, so that, because what happens is, as far as waste management is concerned, quantums plays a major role, and then the transport of plastic is very costly affair. So if at state level we have some kind of mechanism wherein we can have a route mapping, so that the cost is the transportation cost is, can we work on that, sir, please, so that we have a directory?
Absolutely.
I think the route mapping and logistics idea is certainly worth picking up on.
Yeah.
So it's good. No, but for rural, it's even more critical. Yeah.
It becomes very difficult, ma'am.
Yeah, good point. Yeah, Mike, yeah.
Yeah, please go ahead.
How the MRFs in the villages are not actually working, right? So the construction has happened and nothing is going on there. So from the SLG perspective of the MSMEs that we were talking about, is it possible that we have a capacity building or training module that is built in, right? Nana ma'am spoke about the MSME bit also. So how is it that it actually reaches the village level? I think that there is a need to actually work on that module in a better manner. If there are certain states, like you mentioned, sir, that they are already doing it, but in states where it's not happening, so at a state level, at a district level, these conversations can also start.
See, 90% of the time where MRFs or these plastic waste management units are not working is because they are wrongly sited. There never was a necessity to have them in that first place. I'll give you the example. I went to Bihar. So they had barely started. They had barely started around 11 or 12 plastic waste management units. तो हम लोग का जो स्टैंडर्ड सजेशन है कि 16 लाख पर ब्लॉक हम आपको देंगे, और फॉर अ क्लस्टर ऑफ ब्लॉक्स. So you generally pick up the first thing, and everybody at the start level, अच्छा 534 blocks, you have to start with one in each block. So I said, why you don't have that kind of plastic? The amount of plastic you're going to generate in Shivhar is negligible to the amount of plastic you're going to generate in Patna. So you might need to have maybe 2 units in Patna in per block, and you may require not even 1 unit in say 3 blocks in Shivhar. So they realized that, and they said, okay, we'll calibrate it and we'll put up the plastic waste management units first at the subdivision level. So you have around 6 or 7 blocks having a plastic waste management unit. I went to Assam, By that time, they had already built most of their plastic waste management units in all blocks. In fact, they took me to the PWMU to inaugurate it. When they go, okay, wonderful, you've got it, you've got me to cut the fita. When is the plastic coming? So now we'll hunt for the plastic. First things first, we've got this building done, now we'll hunt for the plastic. So then I realized they have not, they didn't think that through. Sometimes that happens in government. When you push very hard, these kind of planning anomalies happen. So 99%, if the MRF is not working, it's because it was never needed there in the first place. But yes, sometimes it is just some other local issue which is the culprit.
Jitendraji, I have a question for you. I think one of the biggest challenges that corporates face in the field is really around who to address an issue to. So, for example, if you take the last point that you just made, it's a very live issue with lots of corporates where is this the role of the state? Is it the role of the district collector? Is it the role of the Gram Panchayat? You see, at different levels, different questions need to be asked if you want to get a resolution. And I think that's really where we get stuck sometimes in the field. Because if you're not working in the field or you're not part of that hierarchy, you don't really know who answers these questions. So if at all, I feel a library should be created. It should be created for what kind of questions can you ask the center? What kind of questions should you ask an SMD? Down to the district and then down to the Gram Panchayat. Is that a possibility?
There are no set answers. There are no set answers. Our system, like I said, it depends on the human element. If the person at the grassroots level is good, you will not need to go up to even the district level. अगर आपका वीडियो अच्छा है, you're not dealing with a very complex problem. Very very simple solution. आपको करना क्या है? एक साइकिल रिक्शा खरीदना है, एक सेग्रीगेशन शेड बैठाना है, 5 आदमियों को रिक्रूट करना है, डस्टबिन देने हैं हर घर में और आपको अपना साइकिल रिक्शा चलवाना है. If this is not happening, it can easily be resolved at the grassroots level of even the panchayat. If the panchayat is sufficiently empowered or if the mukhya is sufficiently keen. Like I said, the human person comes into play there. अक्खड़ होगा वो कहेगा हम नहीं जानते, वीडियो साहब से पूछो, पैसा नहीं है. सिंपल जवाब. वीडियो साहब के पास जाओगे, वीडियो साहब कहेंगे हमारे पास पैसे नहीं है, 6 महीने से पैसा नहीं आया, अब जाकर डीएम साहब से पूछे. So you get the royal running around, which all government offices excel at. So basically, there are no, like I said, there are no direct solutions. Your ability to deliver on the ground will depend on your liaison with various authorities. Not everything should be raised at the level of the MD. Similarly, not everything should be raised at the level of the DM. You should know what things to raise where. And if you are reasonably articulate and you are reasonably networked, your work will never get affected. I have seen that.
Basically, raise it at all levels. Somewhere the penny will drop.
No, ma'am. You raise it at 90% of the time, ma'am. आजकल हम देख रहे हैं कि the level of the videos, एक तो their accountability, their responsibility. हम लोग के टाइम में जो वीडियोस हुआ करते थे और आजकल के जो वीडियोस हैं, most states have gone in for large scale recruitment. You're getting youngsters, they are passing through very competitive exams. The quality of videos is generally on the intellectual plane, at least it's fairly satisfied. So by and large, as long as they are from a reasonably good service, I don't know, some states may be recruiting supervisor level officers, but wherever you come to a competitive exam, the quality of videos is generally very good. You generally don't need to go above the video for most issues.
And actually, our forum is also to help with that. So if you're getting stuck at those levels, I think escalating it to us so that we can also help push at different levels to get this sorted out. Yeah. Great.
I was surprised, no question from Sodhiji.
No question, sir. I think so. The discussion is going absolutely in the right direction. Thank you. One thing which you said, and it's very important to build, is the traceability. What I mean is measurability of how much inward coming, how much outward going, monitoring systems, if they are put at the level, and our experience tells us that nobody shies away from them. They really can see the 1 to 2, 2 to 4 to 4 to 6, and then they start seeing the money coming into them. As you said earlier, and the lady said here, These are not easy things to manage. If they were so easy, then we would have done it years back. But these sort of system, and they are very dynamic, sir, because the price changes for the plastics over and over again. So I think some measurability, we have created dashboards we'll share with you. And if the opportunity is there, I'll share it openly. That dashboards and these simple things, sir, these are very simple things. And the corporates are basically interested in the sustainability. And the sustainability is only going to come with two aspects. What is the cost and what is the benefit? And if the benefit is there, emerging, then more plastics will come, as you said. So, thank you.
No, wonderful. I all of you, just for the knowledge of all the corporates here, please look at our IMIS. Feel free to go on to the SBM dashboard. It's a very robust IMIS, and there are a lot of reports. Please look at those reports. We are in the process of overhauling our reports. Just yesterday, I had a meeting with all my division heads, and we are going to go through a catharsis process in the sense that we have asked them to redesign their basic reports. We have asked them to keep certain static fields and identify the dynamic fields. And the monitoring part which you're talking about, that will come from the dynamic fields. We have told them, जैसे प्लास्टिक वेस्ट में कितना वेस्ट आपके पीडब्ल्यूएम ने जनरेट किया, आपने कितना पैसा उसको बेचकर कमाया, रोड कंस्ट्रक्शन से कितना पैसा आया, सीमेंट किल से कितना आया, पेवर ब्लॉक से कितना आया, रिसाइकलिंग से कितना आया. These are going to be made part of the daily reporting, and we have even told, see, this is where states differ. Tamil Nadu was so quick off the mark. I just told them that you should start grading, and the 2 months later I saw that they have already classified their PWMUs into A, B, and C, and they have said that any PWMU which earns over 1 lakh is an A grade PWMU. Anything which earns over 50,000 is a B grade PWMU. So this grading system will automatically put in place a competition system. वो कहेगा क्या रे, तुम तो सी ग्रेड पीडब्ल्यूएम में हो, तुम क्या बोल रहे हो, शांत रहो, अगली बार बोलना जब तुम बी में आ जाओ. So this grading system will bring about internal competition. I'm telling you, SBM is a very, very exciting field. I have worked in the field for almost 10 years as district magistrate and as 2 years as subdivisional magistrate. And I have never seen such a live field as sanitation. And sometimes I regret that this was not there when we were DMs. Because it would have been an area where one could really innovate and really motivate. It is as dynamic as the field of education or literacy. I mean, that's the closest example I would give to. Yeah, both.
I want to make sure we don't throw the whole program out of gear. So let me just very quickly thank you, Jitendra Srivastavaji. You hardly need any introduction to everyone here. And you leave us in no doubt that you are the right person to help lead us into these very important partnerships of the private sector and public sector. And I, of course, am very excited by everything to do in sanitation. What I was delighted to see was finally in the last CSR surveys, we finally have health as a sector commandeering more money than education. Most of my time was spent in trying to get this very boring outlook of companies to keep establishing schools and more schools and forget that there are other areas that need attention in very unsexy areas like sanitation. But the good news is that we in sanitation are seen as very much part of that health agenda now. We're also part of the education agenda, but it's not fully recognized as such. And we must continue to work away at what I think is a growing group of corporates who are joining this. And join it, we will as corporates, because there's nothing like a successful bandwagon to hop onto. This is no longer a cart which is stuck in its very early stages, still in the stables with its own horse. This is now a jet which has actually moved up and ahead. And it is really for us to all be part of this journey. I was at the B20 only recently. one whole day of the B20 was dedicated with corporates talking about everything from climate change to sustainability to water and indeed sanitation. So it left me in no doubt that even at the global level, these areas are now right up there. And the sanitation story was India sharing its success. And you could see that some of the corporates there not familiar with what Swachh Bharat has achieved, what it's looking to achieve, are sitting up to notice. So I would not be surprised if we now also get more support from global multinationals. Many have been with us on this journey in India, but more support there because they see the success that has already been achieved. So I would only urge you to continue on this journey. So Jitendra Srivastava, what you do, where the Lighthouse Initiative is under implementation, and how we tweak this going forward will depend on a lot of the inputs which we receive today and through workshops such as this. So please share your experiences. Also, other state mission directors who joined us for this knowledge workshop today, CSR chiefs, representatives from the corporate houses, both who are supporting us in LHI phase 1, but also those who are standing in the wings to come forward with the next phase. Experts, sector practitioners, we are keen to hear from each and every one of you today. We have today representatives of the development partners, UNICEF, Water.org, you heard from them, the Aga Khan Foundation, WaterAid India, others, and of course the members of our own steering committee and advisory council at the India Sanitation Coalition. And most important, very dynamic CEO, Natasha Patel, who heads India Sanitation Coalition, and the team which supports her are all here and are documenting everything that is being shared and said, and will of course be shared back with the ministry as we shape this program going forward. I would only urge you to make sure that we succeed in this. We have India's story dotted with examples of public-private partnerships which have been pushed at different levels. Dare I say this is one which success story is already playing out. And these are examples which we can and will share at a global level. And before that, we need to make sure that we are replicating and sharing at the India level. I am still struck, but also sometimes in despair that we have so many examples. Every time we scratch the surface, there's some good idea, there's some innovation, there's some state that's excelling. And we have not yet documented these sufficiently. I know Sanjeev and team are doing a great job of picking up a lot of these examples, but there are so many more. We need you to share it with us so we can ensure that these ideas get replicated everywhere instead of reinventing the wheel. So please make sure that the good examples, things that are working, are indeed documented so we can replicate it across states and across the country. So we will continue doing what we're doing in the India Sanitation Coalition, but we can only do this with your support and help. So workshops such as this are very critical that your knowledge also gets shared with us so we can document and share it back with everyone.